Elena Lancaster in San Francisco.
And I'm Zach Needles in Richboro, Pennsylvania. This is Legal Speak, where we break down what's happening in the legal industry. In this week's episode, Law.com Business of Law reporter Patrick Smith chats with Rich Benenson, managing partner of Brownstein Hyatt, about the power of, you guessed it, Peloton. The popular high-end exercise bike has become something of a pandemic-era obsession for Big Law.
But it's not just a way to pass the time or even to get in shape. As Benenson discusses, Peloton has become an important recruiting and retention tool for his firm, as well as a way to strengthen its culture as attorneys and staff bond with one another through the friendly competition.
So, while you're pedaling, throw in your AirPods for Patrick Smith's conversation with Rich Benenson.
Rich, thank you so much for joining us today. I really appreciate it.
Pleasure to be here, Patrick. Thank you.
And we get to talk about, I know, one of your personal favorite topics, Peloton.
It is one of my favorites. I did a ride this morning before I came to the office.
See, that's how you prep for an interview or a podcast. You actually do the very thing that you're supposed to be talking about. Like maybe litigators could go into a courtroom before they start talking, to a reporter later that day about whatever they'll be working on. I feel like that's the same thing, right?
Similar enough, and certainly a great opportunity to kind of get your thoughts in gear, which I did this morning, and I appreciated a little bit of heads up as to our conversation topics.
Excellent. Well, yeah, let's jump into this. I mean, you and I, you were good enough to participate in an initial story that I wrote about Peloton and how it seemed to be maybe not necessarily pervasive, but it's popular enough with the legal community that I kept hearing about it over and over again. When we spoke, you mentioned it was also quite popular at your firm. So I was just curious. Well, first, let's start with this. So I've noticed an uptick in the mentions of it over the last 12 months, but you guys have been using it at your firm for a lot longer than that. Is that correct?
It is. And let me first maybe just comment on the article. I mean, again, privileged to be a part of that. It was wonderful to connect with so many people. I heard from more people about that Peloton article than any thought leadership or article or other content I've generated in a very long time. Thanks for helping to facilitate that. It was a really great part of my week.
Maybe we should both just start focusing less on the legal community and the business of law and just really lean into the whole Peloton thing. Just make that our jam.
We would be in better shape.
No doubt there.
But to your question, you're right. We've been doing this as a firm for a long time. Peloton came out, I think, kind of in 2017, or at least that's when it was on my radar screen. Many of my colleagues were kind of buzzing about it in the latter part of 2017. There was a big push by Peloton. They were offering a pretty good deal where you got a whole package at the introductory price. And so a lot of us took the plunge in November, December of 2017. We noticed that there were kind of several of us, 10 of us, that had gotten Pelotons and had started riding and had sort of already started connecting because it's very intuitive. And that led to our first Peloton challenge in February and April of 2018. So we did our first group challenge, which was 10 weeks long in that first quarter of 2018. And I'm happy to report I'm in week 3 of our 9th challenge, which will run September 13th to December 5th of this year.
Nice. Now, that first group, how many people did you say were in that?
That's right. It was a total of 10 of us and a great cross-section of our firm. We had our then current managing partner, Adam Agron, was involved, Ellen Schulhofer, our most recent former managing partner. I was involved along with several associates and a couple of members of our staff. And as you observed in the article, it is a meritocracy when it comes to performance on the bicycle. And that tone, that culture got set early in that first example where feedback was encouraged and in fact admired and incentivized. And there was lots of it. And it was without regard to your position at the firm and wholly based on your performance on the bike. And I've shared before, I'll share again, my performance on the bike could improve, especially as it relates to the performance of some of my colleagues.
So that was an interesting point from that article. And I thought it was great that you raised it when we spoke previously about a meritocracy. I mean, look, law firms are, I think for the most part, are meritocracy. You bring in business, you do well, you help shape your colleagues, your younger colleagues' career. You know, those are things that you earn. But I feel like even within that, And, Brownstein may be a little bit different than some firms in this regard, but there's still a lot of regard for title and position. It's not often you're going to find a new associate who may feel comfortable talking with someone in your position, for example, or a practice head about things that maybe aren't directly work related, or maybe a little bit. It sounds like it was a very good bridge for that. So my question to you is, if that is in fact the case, have you seen that play out in other elements of the firm at all? Like, has this been kind of a jumping off point, or is it still kind of, I guess, reined in within the Peloton grouping?
Great question, and I appreciate you posing it. So I think broadly our firm has a little less of that hierarchy than some other firms of our size and within our peer group. But this opportunity around Peloton and our Peloton challenges, and now we have 45 people doing this. It is a unique platform and opportunity to have an incredibly level playing field. We have leveraged the banter and the collegiality that we've developed through the Peloton affinity group into other spots of the firm. I mean, I have a much better relationship with several of our most junior associates because of Peloton. Those are opportunities that might not have come as early in their relationship with the firm, or might not have come as easily in light of COVID. But that level of connectivity has been really great. Obviously, once you have a good level of rapport and connectivity with folks at various positions in the organization, it really does. And you know this, Patrick, it helps to drive feedback. And so through our conversations around Peloton and that banter and that competitive dynamic, I've also been able to get really valuable feedback about new associates' experience onboarding into the firm, their workflow experience, all kinds of feedback around our office protocols and COVID impact. So it has been much more valuable in a broader way than just around how fast were you today, or in my case, how slow were you today? How did I struggle on the hills, and those kinds of things. So it's been a great tool, and it's really helped to facilitate a broad level of conversation and motivation that maybe I'll touch on in a few.
Yeah, I think I mentioned this. I didn't get a chance to put this in the initial article, which I had words with my editor about because I felt it was really appropriate. Whereas this seems like it's a more technologically advanced and a little bit more sophisticated company softball team, or just a softball team that you play on. You get people from the mailroom, from accounting, from HR, from all over the place, but you need to have some sort of reasoning for them to gather, something that's consistent and where there's accountability to want to be there and to hold up whatever your end happens to be for said grouping, whether it's a softball team or a writing group of 45 people. And I don't know, I feel like that, especially during the pandemic, I know there are law firms that have softball teams or basketball teams or various elements that could accomplish this, but I feel like during the pandemic, and I wanted to get your thoughts on this, because my understanding of the platform is that part of the attraction to this is the fact that you do connect with people. There's a platform for for usernames and for people to connect on, and even if you can't get together in the same room, you can still, like you said, talk trash to each other if you want to. Do you agree with that? Like, I feel like it is a community building device in a time when communities were maybe a little bit harder to build.
I couldn't agree more. And, pre-COVID, and I suspect post-COVID, we do have a softball team and a basketball team, and, we participate. And I've done that in the past. This has been a little bit different, a little bit more unique. Some of it is, I think there was such a demand internally for connectivity with people not being able to get together, especially for the indoor stuff. And so that made it a little bit different. I also think the online community that gets generated with this, where, there are these sort of parallel moments without all of us being together. Everybody in our challenge does the same 2 rides, sometimes 3 rides every week. We connect everybody together. Everyone has everyone else's, username and profile. Everyone in our group follows me, and I follow everyone else. It's got that social media component or aspect to it that's really fun. I will often find myself, congratulating, giving high fives to folks that did, a yoga class outside of our required Peloton stuff, because our profiles are connected. It's a feed just like any other social media feed. And so I think that really resonated with folks, especially in light of the desire for more connectivity in COVID. And then I'm sure we'll talk a little bit about this, but that competitive dynamic, where you can see, wow, Margot worked out 16 days this month. That's a lot of wellness and a lot of fitness, and it's a motivator. And I think that lawyers do well with a little bit of competitive dynamic, the transparency, and I think the data-driven dynamics of the platform just really speak to lawyers. They like to have the data. I have to say, I really enjoy the end of the month summaries where it says, you've worked out so many days, you did this many meditations, this many yoga classes, this many strength classes, and of course, all of the required pedaling through our Peloton challenge. So it's a really unique platform that I think right platform at the right time. And that's part of the explosion in popularity.
Yeah, I completely agree with you on that. As far as being the right platform at the right time. And you're right. As far as the competitive nature is concerned, most of the lawyers that I know are very nice people, but they want to win, they want to win fair and square, but they want to win, whether it's in a courtroom or in a deal that they're working or on a Peloton bike. And I feel like that competitive element, because, there have been other ways for people to either blow off steam or to try to connect. People do, wine tasting happy hours where they can see each other and they can take a glass of wine, unless you're having a serious drinking competition, which, might not be a terrible idea depending on the group that you've got together. But the competitive element of that is out. And if you can bring all of those things together, so you bring the community together, you bring the fact that you're doing something good for yourself, and then you bring that competitive element into it. You're right. I feel like it's like the perfect storm for something that would be ideal for attorneys, especially during a time when they can't get together as much. So it makes complete sense to me.
In a busy and distracting world, we've become mindful of what we focus our time and attention to. As an attorney, CLE Center allows you to apply your time to enhancing your legal knowledge while earning mandatory CLE credits.
CLE Center, a division of ALM Media, offers online, on-demand, accredited CLE courses across the U.S. Our content is curated from some of ALM's signature events, such as Legal Week and Women Influence Power and Law, in addition to skillful thought leaders from our content partnerships.
Our CLE accredited content ranges from legal technology, cyber breaches, corporate law for small to large legal teams, as well as CLE specialty credits in ethics, diversity, mental health, and more.
So whether you're a talented law firm associate, a driven solo practitioner, or a resourceful in-house counsel multitasking in different parts of your organization, you'll need CLE credits, and the CLE Center can fulfill your requirements with practical knowledge you can use.
Please visit our website at www.clecenter.com or give us a call at 1-800-348-0466.
Use code CLE20 to receive a 20% discount off your purchase at checkout. That's clecenter.com, code CLE20.
Hi there. Since you're listening to Legal Speak, a podcast that's all about trends in the legal industry, it's likely that you're a lawyer or legal professional and that you take your job and career success seriously.
You know that information gives you an edge, whether you're a partner talking to clients, an in-house lawyer advising your company's CEO, or an associate who's just starting to make a name for yourself at your organization. The most successful lawyers make it a point to stay on the forefront of what's driving litigation and deals in the sectors where their clients operate.
At Law.com, we're here to help, and you're going to want to check out our newest offering, Law.com Radar. It's a high-speed news feed that delivers updates on the latest deals, litigation, and industry headlines that are relevant to your practice. You select the companies, industries, and practice areas that matter to you, and Radar brings you the information and competitive intelligence you need.
Law.com Radar isn't a traditional news site. It's backed up by some pretty amazing technology that analyzes and refines data in seconds in order to deliver the information you need hours ahead of other sources, all in a sleek, easy-to-use website and mobile experience.
It's easy to get started, so check out the new Law.com Radar at www.law.com/radar.
That's law.com/radar for instant updates on high-stakes legal matters personalized to your practice.
I have to ask you before, I don't want to get past this before I ask it. what's the best trash talk that somebody's given to you? Like if you ended up, a little slower on a ride than you were supposed to, or didn't quite hit the number of rides you were trying to get to, or you told people you were going to hit a strength class and didn't happen. Like there's consequences for this, right? I mean, I want to hear about the trash talk.
There's a lot of it. We do try to keep this largely attorney-client privileged, especially the embarrassing thing. Let me give you one great example. So we're a Colorado-based firm. We have some very accomplished riders within our Peloton group, and including folks that do races like the Leadville 100 and are regularly doing things like the Colorado Triple Bypass, which are 100+ mile rides with thousands of vertical feet climbing. So one morning, a colleague of mine who is a very accomplished rider had picked this 45-minute hill climb ride that I just thought was terrific. So I chimed in to the whole group, letting folks know how much I enjoyed it and what a great workout I thought it was, and belabored that point for a little bit. And the response from my colleague Greg, who had picked the ride, was, "I agree, that was an amazing warm-up ride." I had struggled for 45 minutes on all of these climbs and trying to keep pace. And he used that same ride and let everybody know in our Peloton group that he had used the same ride as a warm-up for a 40-mile outdoor cycling ride. That was a little bit embarrassing and a very sophisticated way to give the managing partner a little bit of grief. I've had some more straightforward sets of feedback, and there's this, now modestly senior, but at the time junior associate, that is a really strong rider, and he does not miss a chance to give me some feedback about my pace. And in particular, you can video conference with people while you're on the bike together. It's like a live chat feature through your phone. And he's not afraid when we're on the bike at the same time to chime in, give me some very choice phraseology for an incentive, as we are often on the bike together. So it comes in all shapes and sizes, Patrick. It's all very good-natured. It is the great equalizer. Everyone starts in the same position on the bike. One other thing I'll add to our mix that I think makes our program work really well, it also ties to the giving back component of our firm. As you said, there are consequences to not doing the required rides. Margot, who runs our group, who you've talked to, she has the ability to impose fines for lack of banter, for failing to do the required coursework, and for other reasons. We donate all of that money. And so we've donated about $5,000 primarily to the Kelly Brush Foundation that seeks to inspire and empower people with spinal cord injuries to lead active and engaged lives. And so, yes, there's accountability in multiple forms. We try to drive some of that accountability on the financial side to doing well, consistent with our firm culture. And I think that's part of the glue that keeps people together. You don't want to miss a class, and people are reluctant to do that, and it happens rarely. But when that does happen, people understand that they're going to give money to charity, and that's not a terrible consequence in the scheme of things.
Absolutely not. Like you said, I think that's the important part, is the accountability that this holds. Now, Margot mentioned something the last time we spoke, that there was another benefit of that accountability, in that she had some, let's call it increased success in getting certain administrative reports from people that maybe everybody's had administrative work they don't want to do, or they put it off. I know my editors constantly, every Friday they have to ask me, even though I very well know that I need to send in, what I was doing this week, who I talked to, et cetera. And it doesn't take very long, but for whatever reason, it's in my head as something that I'm going to make them ask for. Now, Margot mentioned that when she started putting that in context of there would be penalties for maybe not getting some of these types of reports in on time, that this would be taken out in the group.
Absolutely, Patrick. The fall is often, for law firms, the season of associate reviews. Margot sent an email out last night calling out specifically the folks that had not yet completed their associate reviews. That can result in penalties in our Peloton affinity group. That can also result in other ramifications. There's a ride called an FTP test. It's an endurance baselining test. You might have to do a 30-minute version of that instead of the 20-minute if you don't get your reviews done timely. And if they're really untimely, you might have to substitute what could be a lovely, leisurely Sunday afternoon type of ride for another FTP test on top of any financial fines. And let me say, you cover the business of law. We all have these administrative things to do, whether it's getting our time in promptly, turning our invoices promptly, getting our associate reviews done promptly. We have had a high degree of compliance with those within the Peloton group as a result of Margot's leadership and the strength of that incentive. It's been a wonderful tool for our firm.
It's truly, I think, voluntary physical exertion, I feel like, is an underutilized tool for motivation in general, not just for administrative tasks. But yeah, like you said, it goes back to accountability, right? People, they want to be a part of that. They want to be viewed well within that, both in the firm and within the group. And that's a motivator for them, I would assume. And I think it's great that you guys have been able to find a way that's a little bit outside of the traditional ways of trying to, get people to do certain things that I think is markedly more beneficial for them and probably for the firm. We're almost at time here. There was one last thing that I wanted to see just real quick, just to ask you. We mentioned earlier that part of the draw with this is, at least recently, has been the community that it forms. Now, when the pandemic recedes, like you said, you guys are in Colorado, like you guys go on 100-mile bike rides. Like for me, getting through the approach on the Brooklyn Bridge that's tough. Like that's a difficult morning for me. I assume you guys will keep this up to some degree, but do you feel like it's going to have the same effect or permanence that it has right now when people are back, where there are your basketball teams and your softball teams, and there are, other ways for people to get together?
I do. I have a real confidence that our Peloton affinity group will continue. It was strong and growing pre-COVID, and obviously has gotten more popular and growing still through COVID. But we have some ideas on how to support it, including bikes in our own gym. We've had 2. They've been a little underutilized. We intend to have more of them post-COVID when we think there will be higher utilization. I also think that the bonds that have formed, the brand of the affinity group internally, has got some stability and is now durable even through COVID. And a lot of that is how it was predicated. These are folks that genuinely like each other and are also interested in staying fit. And a lot of folks ride on a regular basis. And so I'd love to connect, hopefully in the not too distant future when this is hopefully behind us, and compare some notes. And anytime you'd like, Patrick, if you'd like a link, we'd welcome your celebrity involvement in one of our official challenges, or perhaps even for just a week. Let us know if and when you're ready to join.
I know, I mean, I'll have to double check on this, but I know Ira Coleman over at McDermott has already dropped the challenge down to me to come to their offices in New York and ride.
I love it.
I'm going to suggest that you have to come with me because actually, no, I don't want that because you'll make me look even worse.
Not according to one of my favorite associates. I'm a fat and slow rider, according to him.
I mean, it's good that he was holding back on that so as to not make too bad, right? Like just, temper his commentary to the point where you still feel all right at the end of the day. It's fun, right?
It's part of the fun. He probably got some feedback from my teenage sons.
How to talk trash appropriately by teenagers. Yeah, they'd be the right people for that course. I don't doubt that. Well, listen, Rich, we are actually a little bit over our time, but I wanted to say thank you again. It's always a pleasure talking with you in general. Like I said, I really think it's great what you guys have been able to do with this Peloton and the joy and community that it seems to be bringing to the firm. So I wish you best of luck, and I hope that continues.
Thanks so much. Thanks for the opportunity, and good riding to you, Patrick. Be safe.
That's our program for today. Thanks for listening. Please send your comments, questions, and ideas for future episodes to legalspeak@alm.com.
Legal Speak is produced by Charles Garner. We'll be back next week with another episode. Until then, you can keep up with the latest legal news online at law.com.